Hello, Project Runway fans. I'm Gold Derby Senior Editor Daniel Montgomery here with my fellow Senior Editor Susan Wloszczyna. We are here to talk about the 12th episode of Season 17 titled The Art of Fashion. And this was another one of those weird kind of conceptual challenges. The designers had to create art installations and create like a bigger and grander design than they've ever made before to go along with the art installation. And it was a mixed bag in terms of, well, it was a mixed bag in the workroom. It looked like everyone was a mess. Like everyone was an emotional wreck. They were freaking out. They hated the work they were doing. They thought everyone thought they were going to go home except for Garo. Garo was the only one who seemed confident from beginning to end. But in the end, Garo was right to be confident. He won the design challenge, and I think well-deserved. And unfortunately, or fortunately, unfortunately, depending on your opinion of her, Tessa Clark went home, which didn't come as a surprise. Gold Derby, our odds were predicting that. Most of our users who made their predictions this week thought she was going home, and they were right. I honestly think after her last few weeks were kind of rough, that she would literally need to have won this challenge outright for her not to have been eliminated. What did you think about her being sent home?
As you said in your article, Tessa is going to be toast. I was not disagreeing even before I watched the episode, because I don't get this whole I'm a miller's daughter and then, making pots. And I mean, it wasn't a bad installation, but I didn't get, mushing. I mean, what is she doing, an ode to Ghost? I mean, I don't know what she was doing.
Well, her mom did pottery, and so she wanted to create kind of a look that was inspired by that. And I was so worried as soon as she said that, because I'm like, oh my goodness, it's all going to be like beige clay colored. She had one of my favorite designs this week. So I was surprised, not surprised that she was sent home, but I was surprised that she pulled it out. In my opinion, the judges didn't like her look as much as I did. They did like her installation as a whole. Like, she created a strong experience with this potter's wheel and actual specks of clay getting on the dress, and it felt very immersive in that way. So I thought she really nailed this challenge in a way that I thought was good for her. But I also agreed with the judges that, especially in the last few weeks, we've seen her kind of like the limitations of her creative vision. Like, we haven't seen her grow that much, in terms of what she does. Like, she kind of, even when the dream dress challenge last week, when I personally would have eliminated her then, just because I was so mad at her for completely ignoring her client. But that's what she did. Like, she ignored her client. She just did what she knows how to do, and she didn't really push herself. This week, I'm glad that she pushed herself, and I'm glad that she left on a really gracious note. I really liked her design this week, more than the judges. But what do you think about the fact that it came down to her and Hester? I think Hester has had a better season overall. And certainly, just objectively, she's won more challenges than anyone else.
Right.
She also has had kind of a weak last few weeks, and I thought her look this week was the weakest of the five. But I kind of also agreed with the judges that I would just rather see a 10-look collection from Hester, because it will be a lot more interesting. Whether it's good, whether it's bad, I'll be more excited to see it than to see like a bunch of minimalist black and white and gray and beige looks come down the runway from Tessa, even if they were spectacular looks. I'm just
she doesn't. She puts pieces together. She doesn't make, like Garo and Sebastian make, and even Bishme make outfits. She puts little pieces of things, and I don't get that. Even the one challenge she won, the first one, she had those little strippies things, ribbons, and I don't get that. I mean, I don't think, I mean, if that's her aesthetic and all that, fine, but I just don't know who wants to wear things like that. So.
I think she was smart this week, because it feels like this week she like went on Google and found out what wabi sabi is, just so she finally had something to say to the judges when she had unfinished hems. It's like, no, it's wabi sabi. That's what I've been doing all this time. And Brandon was like, "Oh, I get it now." It's like, I feel like she's pulling your leg a little bit on that one because she didn't mention wabi sabi ever.
Hat. That's my philosophy. No, minimalism is gone. Now I'm just making kimonos, sort of.
Because there's a big difference between
things hanging from her arms. As far as I could tell, I
liked those. They were.
You and I disagree sometimes, and that's fine. It's just I just didn't find it attractive. I don't know why. It's just not my thing. Whereas I thought, okay, at some point, Garo's got to make something without a corset, but he's never going to, right?
I don't think. I mean, the one time they pointed out when they were deliberating, he had one look without a corset, and it was one of his lower scores. It was like that circus tent striped thing.
It was like Clownville, yeah.
Yeah, I actually like that look too.
I didn't mind it so much. Yeah. I didn't like the colors or whatever.
Yeah, the colors, I can see quibbling with the colors. I thought it was a good idea. It just needed to lose the headband that week. But I think, honestly, what I like about Garo is that he does corsets every week, every single time, but he doesn't do it monotonously. Like, he's not a one-trick pony in that sense. Every time he introduces a corset, he brings it to whatever the challenge is and makes it its own thing, makes it unique. It doesn't, unlike Tessa, where it felt like she was going back to the same bag of tricks a lot of times. Garo was really taking his kind of signature item, his signature aspect of his design, and really tailoring that to each individual challenge in a way that each one felt fresh. You could tell it was his look because it was a corset, but everyone felt like it felt right with whatever he was making. So I always appreciate it.
Bishme sewing his fabric into her hair. Really, I don't think back in the day they would get away with it. I think that's not right.
If they noticed, I honestly, I would not have thought to look necessarily. It's like, oh, is that dress sewn into her hair to hold it up? I would not necessarily have thought to inspect that. But again, for an installation piece, I'm like, okay, this isn't supposed to be that practical. So I was more forgiving of the fact that he had to sew the back of it into her hair.
I felt bad for him because they did such a cliche urban landscape for Baltimore with those sneakers hanging everywhere.
Yeah, the sneakers and like half a car broken.
He wanted beauty in the urban jungle. He didn't want the urban jungle to eat the beauty. You know?
Yeah, and it felt like an urban cliche in the sense, like, oh, he wants it, the flower growing out of concrete, but she made it look dilapidated, like it looked like a war zone. It's like Baltimore doesn't look like that. I mean, the wire was rough, but it wasn't that rough.
I don't know, but no, I mean, you do see those sneakers. I not as much anymore. I think that's a cliche too. So I felt bad for him, but he didn't like explode. He just said, get rid of some of this stuff. So
yeah, he was just like he didn't want it to be so literal. He wanted to tone it down a little bit so it wouldn't overwhelm the look. And I think it did work that way. And I think especially what worked well was that the kind of rose colored, lame, the color popped against the brick in a way because the brick looked a little faded, and so the rose color coming out of it really kind of was highlighted out of that. So I thought it was a really successful installation in that sense. And so he just needs to like stitch the word Baltimore into every look in the finale, because that works for him, and just keep doing it. Keep doing it.
Right. But this, okay, at a certain point, probably when the show is over for the season, I just think these kind of ephemeral, hard to realize what they're supposed to be doing challenges are driving me crazy. Like, I loved the one last week because it was very specific and they knew what they had to do with those clients. But this one was like, why do I want to see them create a room? I want to see fashion. I want them to sew. I don't want them to do architecture or installation. I mean, Garo could do it because he comes from the theatrical background. Yeah. But the other ones, I mean, does Sebastian, who probably sews better than any of them, does he need to have a story? I guess for his collection he does, but it should just come from him. It doesn't need to be from the outside or, I don't know. It just seems a little artificial to me to keep trying to do these kind of, artsy fartsy things when really we just want them to sew beautiful clothes for models to wear and for us to enjoy.
Yeah, I really felt for Sebastian this week. Up to a point, I was also frustrated with Sebastian at certain points, but I felt for him because it's true that like he makes incredible clothes and he's really creative and innovative at doing that. So it's not like he's just not that imaginative. It's like he doesn't have a narrative. It's not about and this look, the back of this look tells the story of this in Colombia and how I traveled here, and that's the train. And it's like, no, he doesn't think that way. You shouldn't have to. And so that's why, this week he was getting so frustrated. It's like, I don't know what the story of this thing is. He was so talking out of his butt when he was trying to explain what his room meant, because he's like, it didn't mean anything to him. He didn't know what he was doing or what he was thinking with it. And he was like, I'm going to quit the show. I'm going to leave the show. I'm going to quit the show. And then he makes one of the best dresses of the entire challenge, one of the better dresses of the entire season. So I'm just like frustrated with Sebastian for like freaking out that much when like obviously like his dress was excellent in the end. His installation didn't mean anything, but they sent him through to the finale because he makes such amazing clothes, and they were like, okay, so your installation didn't really mean anything, but that was just one challenge, and they really judged them this week on all their entire progression up to this point to decide the finale.
Well, I don't think Hester met the aggressive Rococo bondage.
Aggressive Rococo
bondage picnic.
Bondage picnic, yeah. I wanted to see that so much. I was so hoping she would pull that off.
The clothing just did not live up to that. And
no, it just
there wasn't. They had $500. Why didn't she have enough red fabric or whatever she did? And why did they? It was editing, but she had that one top, and I think Carly or someone said they liked it better, or Christian did.
Christian, yeah. I was surprised by that too. Christian said he really liked that top.
The other squishy one.
Yeah, she showed him both. She showed the top, the first top, and then she put the other one over it to show Christian, and Christian's like, I like that other one better. And she went with the one that he didn't like, and it was a mistake. I think she should have gone with the other one.
Yeah. So what? Okay, so she can come up with concepts, but then she just tosses them aside because she can't sew as well as the other people.
Well, she has ideas, and I think they're like a lot of them are only half formed. Like a couple of the episodes where she's been especially successful, like there have been a couple of times where she's like, I've had this idea for a while, now I get to do it. And these other times where it's like, okay, now she actually has to sketch something from scratch that she hasn't thought of yet. She has this grand ambition, and she can't really figure out how to pull off what exactly in her head in the time, and so she ends up scrambling. So I'm excited for her to have a collection where she's going to have 5 months to put together 10 looks. So
what is she going to do with $10,000? I don't think she even spends the full
ruby pasties instead of just taffeta.
Right. Diamond pasties. They have to show that pasty thing again. Oh my God. I didn't want to ever see that again. So.
I love that at the end of the episode when they were looking over all of their looks and trying to decide who would go through. And I agree with Nina, but it was so interesting when she praised Hester, saying, she won 3 challenges. Every time she had immunity, she took a big chance. She took a big swing. She used that immunity to really push herself, which is the nicest thing anyone ever said or will ever say about those pasties, was that she took a big risk when she had immunity, and that she did. And boy, was she glad she had immunity.
Yeah. But, well, it'll be interesting. I don't know if Christian's going to go to their homes like Tim always did. And
well, it looked like he was like popping in on Hester's house, which looked like the interior of
it was
Channel cartoon.
To a T.
That was very her. That was very on brand for Hester. Who do you think is going to win out of these four? Because Sebastian has been the front runner in our odds all this time at Gold Derby. I'm skeptical about whether he's going to put together a collection that has that's cohesive enough to have a really wow factor. So I'm wondering if maybe Garo or unless he goes too costumey.
Well, that's his problem too, that sometimes they are. This one was almost there, but they love the what cobra skin. What was it?
It was like some sort of snake or kind of leather kind of skin. Yeah.
And that broke it up, and it looked very cool because it almost looked like lace until you look closer and you go, ooh. But I think Garo could, if he does I don't know how many designs they have to make.
10.
10?
So it's 10,000, so 1,000 per look.
He has to do something a little different, but he's not going to.
He's got to mix up the corsets as well as he has been doing throughout the season, or it's going to get monotonous really fast. But I think he can. I'm not worried about his corsets getting too many corsets. I'm worried about, and I honestly don't have a problem with him going a little costumey because, a lot of the judges have problems with that. I feel like a lot of times when they let him off the leash and let him do something really crazy over the top, like the Elton John challenge, that's when he excels. The video game challenge with sort of the dominatrix of fashion or something.
Right.
Those are the ones where he really, succeeds when he's able to kind of, have free reign to work. It's just the judges are a little bit more snobby, I think, about what they consider to be a costume and what they consider to be fashion. But it's interesting because you've got Garo and Hester, who I think are the two designers with the clearest design vision, but they also are the two that have the most potential to go over the top.
Right.
And then you have Bishme and Sebastian, who have been really consistent throughout the season, but I can't envision their sort of cohesive idea for their collection.
Well, we're going to get more Baltimore.
Yeah, I think that could help Bishme a lot is if he leans into the Baltimore thing, because he's managed to put together so many eclectic looks, and they even said during this challenge, the guest judge Linda was talking about how it's he has such a wide range of looks, which is why it's hard to pin down exactly what his stylistic kind of point of view is. But if he manages to bring that kind of range to his looks while still kind of marrying it all into that Baltimore idea of that Baltimore Bloom idea and kind of expressing that even more, I think he'll have the cohesiveness. I think he'll have the variety and the potential for the wow factor and the potential for the polish. I think he's a real dark horse in this.
Well, here's what Garo has that the others lack is confidence. As he said, he's been doing this for 20 years. He knows what he can do. And he doesn't question himself the way the others always second guess. And he rarely does. Yeah. So that helps him because it's less stress and less work if you have to keep redoing it 50 times like everybody else does.
Yeah, and he having the experience that he has helps him because he like you said, he doesn't freak out. He's very clean and polished at what he does. Even when he's having a bad week, he knows that he had a bad week and he knows why. Like the week he almost went home with the kind of the bee costume. He knew what went wrong and why. He agreed with everything the judges were telling him. But he was able to take that and go okay, these are the mistakes I made. Let me, course correct. So it's just a matter of whether 10 looks from Garo will be fun, bright, bold enough without being too much for the judges. Because it's never too much for me. I enjoy the kind of wild style.
Well, you remember on the old Project Runway, Chris was his name? That he designed costumes, like drag queen costumes for a living. And he was just it reminds me of him a little bit because they have a joy to what they do. they want to make women, their clients, happy, whoever they are. And he somehow sort of translated it into what you need to do on Project Runway. But I just think it's too, this season has just been not tough enough on the designers to grow. I don't think they've grown as much as sometimes you see in the past. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see them learning as much as they should. And I think it's partly because, the two judges are new and kind of learning the ropes. And Christian's getting better. I think he's been more on point than other judges. Like Elaine just comes out with things that are just totally not true. So, far too often. Nina's Nina, but she's kind of not been as outspoken. Brandon is probably more outspoken.
Yeah, Brandon, I'd say, is the breakout judge of the season, just in terms of personality. He's definitely the most, kind of demands your attention kind of personality. Yeah,
but I think hopefully we'll see one last reveal for him to, come before the show is over. But overall, it started off a little rough. I think there's been some high points, but I still think they need to polish it a little more. It's not quite there yet, and Carly is no Heidi. So.
I honestly think, because I loved Heidi, but I honestly don't think what she brought to the show was like so make it or break it, and I feel like Carly's done a really good job of filling those shoes. I think the harder job was Christian.
Trying to be
Tim Gunn. Yeah, Tim Gunn was such an integral part of the show. I think that's why Heidi Klum got a few Emmy nominations, and she didn't win until they finally put Tim Gunn, on the nomination with her. Yeah, they submitted them as co-hosts together, and that was the year they first won. Yeah. And I think that's what it is. I think Heidi, it was really good, but she was really kind of just, like keep the show moving along, and then give her opinions during the critiques. And I feel like Carly has done a really, really good job of assuming that role.
Okay.
I think that's what it means.
Her, loving her, she's just there and fine. It's okay.
Well, with that, just
I'm sorry, this isn't a very good ending. But
honestly, with some of these designers, it fits.
I'm nervous, but also very keen to see what these people will do when they really have money and they really can spend a lot of time without having to be under the gun, so to speak. So we'll see who. I'm predicting Garo, though. I just am. Even though I really like Sebastian, I like him as a person. He just has this way of expressing himself that makes me laugh. Anyway.
It's going to be tough for me. I don't know who I'm going to predict. I think I'm equal. I feel like there's, Sebastian, Garo, and Bishme have an equal chance of winning. I think Hester, no matter what she does, is probably going to be a little too over the top to win. But so I think the three men are probably the front runners, but I can't figure out which one to predict. I'm worried that Garo is gonna, they're gonna think it's too much, or Sebastian is gonna create just amazing looks and he's gonna think they're terrible and he's gonna win. It's gonna be so hard to figure out who's gonna win. I might stick with Sebastian just for the time being, and then as the days go by, maybe if I'm starting to think, it's like,
I'm just thinking Hester. She's fine. I have nothing against her, but I don't see the skill set that you need to really, when you put chains under someone's armpits, that's not a good thing to do. I don't know. Nothing I think most women would need under there. So.
Yeah, Jamal got eliminated for something similar.
Similar, yes. So anyway, but we'll see. And It hasn't been as bad as I thought it would be, judging from the first show. I wonder if they'll bring other contestants back. Do they do
I
that?
hope so. I in some capacity. We'll probably see them at least during the last runway show. I don't know if they'll like play any significant part in the actual challenge itself. As long as we get to see like COVID again, I want that smiley energy back.
Yeah.
Or if they bring back All Stars, like if they decide to do All Stars on Bravo again, I would love, COVID on that. I would love to see Tessa on that. I would love to see if she grows and like do a kind of all-star competition.
I'm
So
done with Tessa, so she's toast, as you said. I'm quoting you.
COVID, I want to see more of. COVID needs to grow because he had some weird ideas about stuff he was doing that wasn't connecting. But he's just joy, and I enjoy that joy. So
Yeah.
I hope to see him in some capacity in the finale.
Okay.
With that, thank you, Susan, for joining me again this week, and thank you everyone for watching. Please click like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, or even if you didn't. We won't know the difference. Just say you liked it anyway. And go to goldderby.com every week, or really we're coming on the last week of Project Runway, to predict who will win the show, who will finish second, third, fourth. You can keep changing those predictions right up until next week's episode airs. So with that, we will see you again probably next week to talk about who won. So thank you very much, and see you then.